Hello friends, I welcome you all in the second lecture of this chapter, Tribals, Dikus and Vision of a Golden Age. So in the last lecture, I have given you the introduction about the tribal occupation, about the characteristics of tribal society. In this lecture, we are going to see the changes faced by tribal society and a closer look. Okay, so we are going to discuss two topics basically. Let us start with the first topic, that is changes in tribal society during British rule. First, I will note down the changes, then I will do with the explanation part. So, first impact is impact on the position of tribal chiefs. As we have already discussed in the last chapter that each tribe was basically connected with a tie of kinship, and among the tribes only there used to be the most eldest person or the most experienced person who always used to be considered as the chief. Now, this tribal chief used to enjoy a lot of authority within the particular tribe. Like they used to administer the whole tribe, they used to manage the whole tribe, they used to manage the resources, they used to manage the movements of tribes as in shifting cultivation also. But due to interference of Britishers, tribal chief now less enjoyed their position. Their position got weakened and their authority also got declined. Earlier, they had some police jockey also under them. But now, since British officials have come in the villages, they have started intruding in the villages. So, they no more can enjoy such authority. The tribal chiefs cannot enjoy that kind of authority. Next is impact on shifting cultivators. Forest was a state property and it was difficult for Britishers to collect tax from a group of people who were always on move. So they were forced to settle down. This harmed environment and restricted the movement of tribes. So in this point, basically, as we have already discussed in my last lecture, that shifting cultivation was one of the major occupation of tribal people. They used to clear a patch of land, did cultivation there for 3 seasons, and then they left that land fallow for 10 years. So these tribal people were always on move. And now since the forest has come under the government, Britisher will want to have some tax from that particular area, right? And it was very difficult for them to collect tax from those people who are always on move. Say they force those cultivators to settle at one place. But as they were not skilled farmers, they cannot settle at one place and do cultivation as properly as they did during shifting cultivation, right? So the produce was very low because they have settled to some small place. And in those forest areas, water resources were also very scarce. So in such condition, how would they produce more goods and how would they pay taxes? So basically, this is one, impacted them economically also, and this impacted them like traditionally also they had some rights. Okay, so this particular shifting cultivation impacted them economically also, and it hurt their customs and rituals also, their sentiments also. Okay, now next impact is impact due to forest laws. Britishers implemented a law, Indian Forest Act of 1878. According to this law, the forest was divided into 3 categories. Like let us suppose that this is one forest, it was divided into 3 categories. This particular act is very important because we are going to study it in your senior classes also, in class 9 also, in class 10 also, this act will come. Okay, so we need to understand it very carefully. So they divided the forest into 3 categories. The most useful part of the forest, or the innermost part of the forest, which had a lot of timber, a lot of forest resources, was categorized as reserved forest. Okay, and in reserved forest, basically no tribal people were allowed to enter, and this was that forest where tribal people were most dependent on, but now they are being restricted from entering into this particular area. Second part is protected forest, which was utility wise of lesser value, but this in this particular area also tribal people used to had their settlements, they used to had their houses, but now they were dispossessed from this land also. Okay, it's like it is your house and someone is entering into your house and asking for rent from you only. Okay, which is not which does not sound logical also. Okay, so obviously tribal people were very angry with this, because protected forest was the place where they had their settlements, where they had their house, tribal people had their house, and they were forced to go out from this area and they were shifted to village forest, and this was the most less useful, you can say. This was the least useful area, least useful part of the forest, and they were forced to stay here, and for this part also they used to pay taxes. Land revenue used to be paid to the British officials. So this impacted their life the most, Indian Forest Act. And later on many transformations were done in the Indian Forest Act also, which restricted their movements further, which restricted the movement of their cattle also. Their cattle were not allowed to graze inside the protected and reserved forest. Okay, so this impacted their life the most. Next impact is impact on trade. In my last lecture only I have discussed that trade was also one of the important occupation of Baigas tribe of central India. Not just in central India, in many other parts also, many parts of India also, many of the tribal people practiced trading. Okay, in trading what they used to do, they used to trade the forest essentials, the forest goods with the other material which were readily available to them, like rice and salt. Okay, but now what happened here, we can take the case study of one tribe, Santhal tribe of Hazaribagh. Like in Santhal tribe, these Santhal tribes of Hazaribagh used to rear silkworms and they used to make silk out of it. Okay, what the Britishers used to do, they used to just pay them ₹2 or 3 or ₹3 and 4 for each cocoon, which they used to take it from Hazaribagh, from Santhal tribes. And later they used to sell it at much higher price of about more than 5 times price. Okay, so what will be the 5 times of 3? 15 to 20 rupees per cocoon. And they used to sell it in Gaya. Basically, silk had a lot of demand in European markets. So they used to exploit these tribes like this. They used to buy it at very lesser price and sell it at very higher price. And many times they don't even used to pay them the money because the tribal people were unable to pay the taxes. So instead of taking taxes, they used to take the forest goods. Okay, so it was a great loss for them. Okay, and the last impact is on plantation and entrance of plantation. Here first we need to understand what is plantation. Plantation is basically commercial farming done on a very large piece of land. Okay, it is commercial farming done on a very large piece of land, and here only single crop is being grown. Okay, and plantation is a very labor intensive industry. Some example of plantations are tea plantation, coffee plantation. Okay, so Basically, plantation was very profitable business for Britishers. So what they did, they cleared a lot of forest in India and they converted those forest land into plantations. In plantations, they needed labor. Okay, now who will provide the labor? So they forced the tribal people to work on this plantation areas. Okay, and they exploited them a lot. They never paid them proper wages. It was more like forced labor. Okay, so plantation also played a significant role in exploitation of tribal people. Okay, apart from that, many of the tribal people were in search of other occupations also, because they were being exploited so much in their homes, in their forests. So many of the tribes left the forest and they settled down to some other places. Okay, so that was also one impact, that the control of tribal people on forest got reduced. Final impact was that control of tribal people on forests got reduced. They were forced to work on plantations or as porters or coolies. Because Britishers needed a lot of timber for railway expansions and for making ships. So the labor was to be provided in the forest, which was forced by the tribals. Tribals were forced to provide the labor. Now we will take the second topic for today, or the last topic of this chapter. Okay. So in the last topic of this chapter, a closer look, we are going to study about the Birsa revolt, which has taken place in the Chota Nagpur region. And Birsa was a person born in the Munda tribe. He was born on 15th November 1875 in Ulihati, West Bengal, and he only basically leaded the whole revolt. Okay. So first we need to know about his childhood a little bit. During his childhood, Birsa Munda basically spent a lot of time with his tribal chiefs, and he was seen roaming around in the forest with his flute everywhere, and he used to dance in the akharas also. And during the childhood, he has only learnt that Dikus or outsiders, here outsiders are Britishers, have taken over their forest, and they have taken all their traditional rights on the forest. And from their tribal chief only, he has learnt that they can gain the control over the forest again also. So basically, he has dreamt of that golden age since childhood only. That is why in the chapter it is written vision of the golden age. He had that vision that we are going to attain the governance on the forest again. Okay, during the childhood only, he was very sure about it. But in his adolescence, he started going to the school, which was basically set up by the missionaries. Missionaries are Christian fathers or priests who had set up these particular school. And in the missionary school, he learnt that they can attain the kingdom of heaven, or they can have their whole control over the forest only and only if they become good Christians. Okay, because these missionaries had come in India with a goal that they want to promote their religion. Okay, so he has been told in his adolescence that he can change his religion into Christianity, but he was not very much convinced to change his religion. So he was influenced by missionaries, but at the same time he was not ready to change his religion. Secondly, he also met with many of the Vaishnav preachers. Vaishnav preachers are basically those people, Hindu priests who worship Vishnuji. Okay, so after getting into the influence of Vaishnav preachers, he started wearing that sacred thread, which is somewhere called Janeu also. Okay, in some parts of India. But again also, he was not very much convinced with Vaishnav preachers also, and he thought that his own syncretic beliefs, or tribal people, they used to worship the nature, that particular belief he need to get rooted with. Okay, he don't wanted to leave that particular syncretic belief. And his main aim or his main goal was to reform his tribal society. He wanted the tribal people to give up drinking, to give up liquor, and to disobey the witchcraft and sorcery, because they used to have a lot of belief in black magic. So he wanted his tribal people to be a little bit rational instead of believing all these irrational logics. Okay, so he started his revolt against Britishers in 1895, and during this era, all the tribal people attacked many of the British symbols, authority of British symbols, like they attacked the churches also, they attacked the police stations also. And as the Britishers got scared of Birsa's goals and Birsa's motive, they arrested him in 1895 only. So the revolt was very much active for the 1 year. And later on in 1895 he was arrested, and then he was freed in he got arrested in 1895, and he got freed in 1897. Sorry, got arrested in 1895 and freed in 1897. After 2 years, he got freed. And once he got freed, the Birsa revolt again came into the action. Now this time, the Birsa people started hosting their flags also, white flags, into the forest, which was the symbol of Munda Raj. So the revolt again became active in 1897, but due to some reason in 1900, Birsa died. And after his death also, he is celebrated, and he was then also celebrated as a folk hero. In many of the folk songs of Chota Nagpur Plateau region, you will find his name. So what was the outcome of this whole revolt? That in Chota Nagpur Plateau region, Birsa revolt was very much successful, and they pressurized the British government to change their forest laws also. Now their land, now the forest land cannot be confiscated that easily after the revolt. Okay, confiscated means legally taking over that particular land. But now after the revolt, it was not possible, and it also gave tribal people a lot of encouragement that they can also protest, because they belong to the lowest strata of the society, and these people also protested against the Britishers.